Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. Austin Linney here. I have the honor of having Mr. Victor Nino in the house. How are you doing, sir?
Doing amazing. Yourself?
I'm doing good, man. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor, dreamchasers.com, Adam Carswell. Go check him out. Thank you so much. Man, I tell you what, if I haven't heard more about a guy in my life but haven't had the honor of meeting him, this is the guy right here. He's the guy that makes the magic happen. Big agent, big investor in Austin, Texas. You know, Victor, I like to let my guests kind of tell their story where they want to, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Fantastic. So, I guess I'll give you a little summary. I grew up along the Mexican border, Eagle Pass, Texas, about four hours from Austin, south of Austin. And when I was born, we were actually in government housing for about 4 years. My parents used to sell food in a taco truck before they were cool. You know, nowadays it's cool to have a taco truck, not back then. And they ended up saving some money. They bought themselves a little duplex. And we ended up moving into their first home, my parents' first home. We were in a real busy street and close to a park. So at the age of 7, I started selling snow cones outside. Had a little bit a machine, and I'd put the ice and do everything from scratch. So that was pretty cool. I grew up playing sports, so I made a lot of friends and so forth. So people going to and from the park would stop and get themselves a snow cone. My parents then had a little restaurant there at the front of the property. They turned it into a restaurant since, again, it was a busy street. I used to wait tables and just help them with everything that was necessary, take out the trash, you name it. Fast forward a couple of years, my dad said, you know what, let's go ahead and close up the restaurant and let's go ahead and have a tortilla factory. So we started making tortillas and didn't go so well. Then we started to sell tortillas door to door. So that was fun at 11. And since I was about 5 years old, I would always play sports. So I played t-ball. I played, baseball throughout growing up all the way to high school. But in the summers and in my free time, per se, I would go ahead and work and do different things. At 13, I started going to California. My sister had already gotten married. I would deliver flowers out there. I did all kinds of stuff. At 17, I graduated high school and ended up moving to Austin. My brother was already living in Austin, and he said, hey, you know what? Come on over and start your life over here. So I did. And fast forward, maybe 2 months later, when I turned 18, I was able to get my first apartment and my first job, per se. And then from there, it just, snowballed into what I'm doing right now. And I can, I guess, dive into it a little bit more. But at the age of 19, I bought my first home.
Amazing. And there's so much there in that story. And let's just say that the entrepreneurship bug was instilled in you from a long time ago. And as you look on it back now, before we get up to where you are now, is there correlations to how you operate your business and who you are and what you've done back as early as 11 and 10? Do you see similarities, like, now that you look back and reflect?
I've never thought of that. One thing I will tell you, and I do notice it when I have a conversation with my wife, sometimes she tends to worry a lot more than me. And the way I see it is like, you know what? Well, what's the worst that can happen? You have to start all over again. And at the end of the day, and as long as we're healthy, if 2020 taught us anything, is health is the most important thing. And then 2021 taught us, if we have water, gas, and electricity. We have it well. So if we get back to the basics, right? I mean, think about it. We get to the basics and it's like everything else is just gravy. You have a roof over your head. You know what? Gamble it a little bit, but smart.
Yes.
Don't just, don't be reckless and gamble it all, but don't be afraid to take a chance. I remember I heard this from Jim Rohn. He said, life is so risky, we're not going to get out of it alive. So, hey, you know what? Just go for it. Go for it and let's see what happens.
I love that. I love Jim Rohn. I quote him all the time. So you said you bought your first house at 19. Is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
So talk to me about that. Like at 19 years old, like I was trying to put on the right pair of pants. Like you're buying houses. So, what made you think that was a good investment, or had somebody told you that was a good investment? Like, were you already an agent, like in real estate? Like,
no, I wish I was an agent at 19. My God. But I'll dive in to that a little bit. So I had been saving money my first year and a half that I was here. Before my 20th birthday, I went to go look at a car because, girls like nice cars at that age. And I wanted to meet more girls and hopefully have some game, right? So I went to go look at a car. I still remember it was a white Mustang. It was a beautiful car. One of my friends knew the sales guy there. So I show up and the guy's like, just take it for a spin. Tell me what you think. Very hands-off kind of guy. And I was like, cool. So I took it for a drive. And I remember I went to my brother's house. And my brother's all like, wow, man, that's a nice car. Like, so you're going to get it? I'm like, yeah, I've been saving some money. I got like $5,000. I'm going to go ahead and buy it. And he's like, come into my office. And I was like, cool. So he jumps on, I think it was like autotrader.com or one website like that. And he's like, wow, you know what? If you take very good care of this car, 5 years down the line, you're buying it for 18, you said, right? Yeah, 18 grand. It's like, if you're lucky, it'll be worth like 6. And I was like, who cares? It's going to be a new car and I'm going to love it. I'm going to enjoy it. I've earned it, that whole mindset. I've earned it and I want it now. And he says, well, you know what? One thing you can do is buy yourself a house and live for free, basically, by renting out a room. Right now, you have a roommate in an apartment. You guys are paying $550 a month. You're splitting the cost. Why don't you just buy yourself a home? And I was still thinking, no, I want the car. So he's like, all right, so how much is your payment in your car? So I told him it was about $350. I was going to give like $4,000 down. And he's like, well, how much is going to be your insurance? And I didn't have insurance back then. I couldn't afford it. Right. So I was making very little money. And he's like, dude, you can't even afford insurance. Like, what are you going to eat? And then I was like, damn, that's true. What am I going to eat? So then I said, you know what? Scrap this whole thing about the car because I can't afford it. It was going to be pretty much the majority of my check. So fast forward, I talked to my roommate. I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about buying a house. Would you live with me if I move and rent out a room? Right now we're each paying $275. We split our time in the bedroom in the sense that three months I was in the bedroom and then we would switch and he would go to the living room. I'd go to the living room, etc. So that's the way we were working it out. And he's like, yeah, man, I'll pay $325 if I have my own room. And I'm like, cool. So that's how that started. And then being so young, I had other friends that were trying to move to Austin. So pretty soon I had 4 people living with me. At the beginning, I was paying $80 a month out of my pocket. And about 3-4 months later, I was pocketing $230 a month and living for free. And I'll tell you, I've been living for free since then.
Well, first of all, whoever this brother of yours is, I want to shake this man's hand. All right. That's the first thing. Yeah. Second thing is that what I realized is that your brother was doing house hacking before house hacking was cool.
Yes.
Yes.
I was like, if I could have packaged that up, but my God, my business partner, Mr. Diego Corzo, just mastermind all that and did something incredible. Whenever I think about it, I'm like, wow, man, this guy's a genius.
Well, what's interesting, right, is even at 19 years old, it had to be like a huge aha moment. Like okay, wait, I'm living here. I'm not paying anymore. And yeah, I might be sacrificing some privacy or something, but ultimately I'm working so hard that it really doesn't matter because I'm never home. And like, look, do people need a nice place to live? Environment's important. I agree. But I think what we think we need and what we actually need are two totally different things.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, you know how earlier you said, if I see any correlations, um, we were four kids. We had a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and we always shared everything. So I guess that was one of the reasons why I didn't care to share a house. I'm like, you know what? I got my own room. I'm already winning in that sense. I had my own privacy there. I learned that, you know, to avoid issues with tenants and so forth or roommates, everybody had a key to their individual room. And that way it was like, hey, you know what? You leave for the weekend. Nobody's going to go in there because you're the only one with the key.
For sure.
So that helped a lot as well, you know, not having things disappear because you had some buddies over and they thought that they took something, you know. But I think that the comment you made right now about sometimes we need things or we think we need things that maybe we don't. And when we get back to basics, my God, we really don't need a whole lot.
Well, if you look at a lot of my coaching clients and you look at people that are scaling up, new to investing or wholesaling or whatever you want to call it, they add on all these qualifiers or marketing expenses or all these things, you know, as an agent, as a wholesaler, and you're creating the have to in your business instead of operating from a place of lean, maximizing out your effort and adding on aspects of scaling your business when it's needed. And so if you can live in the first 5 years of your life, like Andreas does and Diego does, then you're going to wake up at 30 years old and in essence, be financially free already because you took 5 years out and you live with a little, whatever you want to call less. I don't know. These houses are buying are pretty nice. So I don't know if you would consider them less. And so when you did that first one, what was the next one that you got into?
Well, I'll tell you, right around that time, my brother Lino was like, hey, man, you need to read this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Pretty much changed just the way I saw money. It was just so interesting how it was simple yet so effective. Well, I didn't get my new car anytime soon. In fact, I'll tell you this, my first new car that I bought it in 2020. Like delayed gratification,
dude.
Right,
dude. Y'all, look, your whole crew, Diego and everybody, y'all need to write a book because that's what I love about Diego too. He has done so much, and he just got the Tesla, and he was always driving around a Honda, and he didn't care, and I love it, dude. Like, you know, do you know who Matt Tefke is? Do you know who that is in town? Oh. He's an agent. It doesn't matter. He's an agent. He owns a bunch of houses, brokerage team. They roll around in Priuses, and he says, do you understand how much of a flex it is to roll up in a Prius and just be buying houses left and right? He's like, we don't care.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, man. And I'll tell you this, like fast forwarding to, you know, seeing my brother go from when he started, because he's also a realtor, he's also a real estate investor. His first home that he bought was a duplex. And now this guy's building a home that's going to be like $2 million. Gorgeous. And the best thing about it, Austin, is that he also lives for free. He doesn't have to pay a mortgage. He hasn't paid a mortgage out of his pocket for his home in I don't know how long. And that's the thing. Like now he drives around in a cool Maserati and, you know, he's always dressed up in a nice suit. And it's like people probably see him as like, man, that guy's probably had it like that all his life. And the interesting thing is he was a firefighter as well. So it was just so tripped out to see how all his other friends in the fire department, or not all of them, but the majority of them, will probably never experience this, but it was because of discipline. He never used his money out of his income as a firefighter. Sure. All that was being saved to buy properties. He would only use a little bit of what he made off of real estate. And, you know, when you talk to Andreas, when you talk to Diego and we operate, is like, hey, you know what? If you want to have something nice, just make sure that it is by spending a lot less than what you earn. And that's really the key. because, and you know what, everybody has a different mentality of what to do and what you shouldn't do. But the way I see it is, you know what, you got to enjoy life a little bit. If something rocks your world, go ahead and do it. Just don't overdo it. And then in the long run, you're going to build. By the time you know it, you're going to wake up and say, wow, I'm so happy I made all those decisions back then.
Yeah, I interviewed a friend of mine who had a $4.5 billion exit from his company that he created, right?
Wow.
And he's like the godfather of marketing in the tech world and everything. And he's 50 now. And he said something to me at the end of the podcast that changed my life. And he said, Austin, he said, you know who my favorite person is? He goes, my favorite person is my 21-year-old version of myself. And he says, you know who's even better? My 26-year-old version of myself. He says, you know who's my favorite version of myself? He said, my 35-year-old version of myself. Because that guy worked his ass off. And he set this 50-year-old up like a gangster. And he was like, and he was like, do something every day that your future self is going to thank yourself for.
Wow. That's cool. Yeah. I like that. I even got goosebumps, man.
Yeah. It's so great. It set with me so good. So you get the first house hack, you go from paying $80 to making some money. And then where did you go next from there?
So I started saving $230 a month. And then I was like, man, this real estate thing's pretty cool. So at 24, I bought my first duplex, and it was pretty tripped out because I remember renting to this lady. I still stay in touch with her. I've sold homes to her relatives now and stuff. And I still remember my brother was cracking up when we left because I went as the owner of the duplex to, check out what's going on. Something had gone wrong. And then she kept saying, Don Victor, which is Mr. Victor, Don Victor. She spoke Spanish. And my brother's like, damn, dude, you're 24 and you're a Don. Like, it was just super, super funny, man. And so I ended up buying that duplex. And like 3 years later, I ended up buying 2 homes within three months. And then I've just bought homes throughout. I'll tell you this. One thing, and I started hearing a lot about this again, maybe about a year and a half ago, 2 years, but we have to stand guard of whose advice we're taking. I remember I read this book, Aftershock. Did you ever read that book?
I have not, but I'm going to definitely pick it up now.
Don't pick it up.
Don't pick it up. Even better. Yeah.
So Aftershock was talking about how there was going to be this world meltdown, how things were going to be super cheap. We were going to have massive hyperinflation. It was just like Armageddon, right? Well, what did I end up doing? I started selling a couple properties. Worst decision of my life. So I would tell you this, pay very close attention to whose advice you're taking. If it's doom and gloom, you know what? Pay attention a little bit, but just exercise caution. Don't just automatically sell some properties. I mean, right now, I'd be sitting a lot prettier if I had kept those homes. But you know what? You win some, you lose some, no big deal. Just move on. And that's another thing that sometimes I see people being so hard on themselves whenever they look back and say, man, that was a bad decision. Don't beat yourself up for it. You made a decision. Let's move on. No, just keep going. But yeah, I ended up buying some rental properties after that as well. But now I'm like very cautious of whose advice I'm taking. And, nowadays what happens, Austin, is like we have millions of podcasts, millions of audiobooks, tons of books. I mean, I have books here in my library here in my house. And we have to be very cautious of who we are allowing to enter our mind, because again, that puts basically all these ingredients in our mind, and then that creates the recipe for our life, right? So if I'd say something that's super, super important is just pay very close attention to who you follow.
I couldn't agree more. And so where we sit today, what does your portfolio look like in investing?
So right now, only 9 doors, but I'm working on one more to get my 10th. I have 3-month-old baby, and I bought this or got this home under contract because that's going to be for her. In the sense that that's going to pay for college, or that's going to pay for whatever we need to pay. And then I just got approval on an 11 door project about a mile, no, not a mile, maybe like a quarter of a mile from a casino in my hometown. So I'm really excited about that. I'm going to go ahead and have one unit as Airbnb. The other 10 are just going to be regular rentals. They'll probably rent about $950 to $1,000 a month. So that's going to be really nice.
Is this a value add or a new construction?
New construction from scratch.
Dude, I tell you what, I've been to Eagle Pass a couple of times. You can't get a room. You can't get a room, dude. It's busy all the time. So I know that property is going to do great for you.
We'll celebrate. We'll get Andres, Diego, and yourself and I, and we'll go one weekend and stay there.
Yes.
We're going to have a balcony view to the casino. And
yes.
The view of the casino now is not really a big deal. But the way I see it, I've been to Laughlin. Have you been to Laughlin?
I don't think so. No, sir.
Laughlin, Nevada. So they also have some gambling there. And I remember going a long time ago and it was real small. And then all of a sudden I went again and I was like, whoa, there's all these hotels. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'm dreaming, but I think that it's going to grow. It is definitely going to grow.
Well, and one of my favorite things to do is talk to big developers and study, human behaviors and investing and stuff. Look, everybody, Central Texas is on some other wavelength right now of investing in business and movement. So if that's the case, then you have an expanding population that's going to be looking for ways to either travel outside of that to get some peace and quiet or whatever. But what I've noticed is a lot of people that have come from El Paso or Eagle Pass and they've come to Austin. Well, they're going to make their money and then they're going to move back home. That's for damn sure. If it's not a second home or something like that. And I interviewed my buddy yesterday. He runs a big equity firm. And he said that the housing shortage in America is 4.5 million. We're short 4.5 million. And he says that California has done a terrible job of keeping the residents. They run the greatest move out of California program that ever existed. This is what he said. He's from California. He does all of his developments in Austin and San Antonio. They spent 2 years studying data in their entire firm. And out of 15 cities, they picked San Antonio. And he believes it's the most recession-proof city in all of America because of the military. Antonio. Yeah, because of the military. He's doing 4 hotel developments and a bunch of other stuff. And so if that's the case, and anybody that's out of town investing, right? So I live in Georgetown. And I lived in Austin for 9 years. And if you look at what everybody asked me, where should I invest? And I said, listen, all you need to know is there's this highway. It's called 35. And you go from the tip of San Antonio all the way to Dallas, Texas, and you invest anywhere along that highway and you'll be good. Yeah. Dude, they're in Gerald, Texas, which nobody's ever heard of, is 5 minutes from me. And they don't have a home for sale. So if they don't have a home for sale, then it's going to go straight up the highway and to the sides. And so if you can see that and you can vision that out, not everybody's going to want to stay in Austin because those prices are getting ridiculous, but the jobs will be there. So maybe somebody lives 45 minutes outside of town. And that's what we're seeing. And so that's why that's why we're starting a construction company. And that's why we're building in construction, because I see the need. I know what's there. I want to be a builder and all that stuff. So it's important to me to study the trends in the markets. You can't just go by sales prices. You have to understand the reason behind the sales price and then work your way backwards. And so I'd be interested, how long have you been an agent?
I have been an agent now. It's going to be 17 years this summer.
Okay. So what were you doing as a young 19 and 24-year-old? Were you an agent then, or were you working a different job? What took you so long? Is basically.
I was working for a company that verified orders on long distance carriers for your home. So you would have a dude call you and convince, your parents and say, hey, if you want to call to California, we can give you this deal. If you call to New York, we can give you this other deal. And then you would say yes. And then they would transfer it to me. And I would be like, hey, this is Austin. You decided to buy this plan, and that was it. It was I didn't really have to think. I could practically do it asleep. And then at 21, at 20, I ended up getting a job as an insurance agent for Progressive Insurance. Mm-hmm. So I started working with them. And I'll tell you, on another front, I was going college. I was going to ACC. I didn't like it. I ended up not finishing. I don't have a degree. I don't even have a 2-year associate's. I remember at 21 or about 3 months before my 21st birthday, I got my first salary job at Progressive, which back then I thought $32,000 was a ton of money. I was like, dude, I'm going to be Sir Richard Branson now with $32,000. I didn't understand. And I still remember at 21, I started that job, and I was with Progressive for quite a while. In fact, I was doing real estate and working at Progressive full time. So I was doing real estate part time. But then I started noticing in 2005, the first 4 months, I made more money in real estate than I did in my full time job. And I couldn't understand it. I was like, how the hell is this possible that in 4 months I made what I made all year working 40 hours a week? And that's when I was like, wow. But then the other thing is this, Austin, and I think there are many people that struggle with this. I ended up staying there another 7 years. Can you believe that?
I can. I spent 20 years in the restaurant business. I tried to get out for 8. Yeah.
Yeah. So. I mean, think about that. And I remember, it got to the point where just thinking about going in was just the biggest drag ever. Like, I couldn't stand anymore. Someone telling me, hey, why are you 10 minutes off the phone? I'm like, well, because I had to go to the restroom. Like, really? And throughout that time, I think this is something that needs to be said. I've been invited to maybe 6 or 7 different network marketing companies. And, there's some people have some, preconceived notions of what they are and so forth. But I'll tell you, it was the best school that I could have gotten because it allowed me to see the power of compounding, the power of a team, the power of being able to build something from scratch. And it was just awesome to see that. And then finally, there was this mentor of mine in the network marketing business that said, man, it's so sad how grown people think they're free. But you know what? You're at work, your kid falls at school, and then you got to ask your boss to see if it's okay to take your kid where he needs to go to get better. That's not freedom. He says, I'll tell you, these guys are so good, they even know when you're going to be hungry. And like, well, what do you mean? And he was super funny about it. And he's like, yeah, they'll give you your lunch break. Hey, Austin, you're going to lunch break from 11:30 to 12:30. And then it's like, you, Bill, you're going between 12 and 1. And it's like, they know when you're going to be hungry. They tell you when to show up, when to leave. And you know what? Your best friend's getting married. Well, you got to ask for permission to see if you can go. I mean, think about that. And when he explained it that way, I was like, damn. I said, that's it. I'm done. I'm leaving. So all those little things that happen in our life, we can build on. And for some people, they may say like, man, that was a waste of your time. You never really made a chunk of money. But the lessons that I took from it are invaluable.
No, the stepping stones of life are getting you to where you need to go. You need to stop forcing yourself down the road that you think you should be on and just let the universe pull you where you need to go, because ultimately the universe is undefeated. And the moment you start trying to force it is the moment that you're probably headed down the path you shouldn't be headed down. In the first place.
Exactly. Yeah. And then paying attention to, to the kind of person that you are. And I really believe that we attract the people that are similar to us. And I am extremely grateful to now, have a team of some pretty awesome rock stars. I mean, you mentioned Diego, Diego and Andres. I mean, those guys are just incredible dudes. They're really going places. And, now with the team and so forth, I'll tell you this. When is this going to be airing?
In like a couple weeks, I think.
All right.
So then I'd have to look, but yeah, drop the bomb on
this. Yeah, I can say this then because it's not going to air before. So this Friday, the 25th. Diego and Andres don't even know this, but I was just told by the office that we're going to be the number 1 team in Keller Williams here in the Northwest Market Center. So we're like super excited. From what I understand, we're the first Latino-led team.
Yes,
going to be number 1.
Yes,
here in the Market Center. So we're excited, man. And there's like over 500 agents in the office. So it's a big deal for us. We helped 156 families. 140 of them were sales and buys. The rest were leases. But, we've just been able to build on doing a great job and also knowing how to ask for referrals the right way so that we can build and build and build and build. And ultimately, for us to be able to live a life by design. I'll tell you, before I met Diego, I was in a time of my life where I was working too much. Sure, the money was great, but I had nobody to share it with. And I got to the point where I said, man, what's the point? I remember one day, I think I sold 3 homes. I made like $35,000 or something in one day. Most money I've ever made in my life up to that point. And I was super happy. I remember going out to lunch with my brother. I was like on cloud 9. And back then I was living downtown in a high-rise condo. And I remember taking the elevator, and I'm still excited, whatever. I get on my floor and I opened the door, and I still remember seeing this beautiful view of downtown Austin, and it felt so empty, man. Like, I was like, what's the point? What's the point? I started saying, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and find myself a right-hand man or right-hand woman that'll help me with my business so that I can make more time to live life, so that I can enjoy life a little bit more. And I went through, 8 to 10 people. And finally I met Diego, the first one of all of them that if I would say something, he would be like, cool, I'll do it. He would never ask. He was like a soldier, man. And I was a drill sergeant. And if the drill sergeant says something, he's like, boom, execute, boom, execute. And I had never met anybody like that. And now, we've partnered up, and what I've told Diego, we're business partners, full-fledged, and we're going to go ahead and grow this as big as it can and just help as many people as possible. So it's an exciting time in my business as a real estate agent and as a team leader, and just sharing this experience with others.
So powerful. I need to share something with you that I've shared with Andreas and Diego personally. I spent 20 years in the restaurant business, and it's not a joke that we know that a lot of the restaurant business workers are from Honduras or Mexico, or it's not as, if you don't know that, then I don't know what you're looking at. And so I joke around that I'm like half Latino, because I spent my whole life working side by side with these humans who inspire me with their attitude and their work ethic and who they are as people. And it's, to me, it's one of the most misunderstood cultures in America, and they're always being railed against, and I'm over it. Because these are, you want to talk about the true definition of what a human being is. It's a Hispanic man and woman. And I have so much love in my heart for how they're so family oriented. They're so hardworking without the complaining, right? And it's just, Andreas, do you know, not Andreas, Adrian Salazar. Have you met him before?
No.
So he's a young kid who lives in McAllen, who owns 188 doors and a bunch of Airbnbs, right? And I sat with him, and I met with him when he had like 80 units. And I said, listen, dude, you need to understand something. I said, what you're doing on the surface is you think you're buying apartments. That's not what you're doing. I said, you're giving hope to every guy that sheetrocks or lays tile or builds a house that he can own the apartment. He doesn't have to be the one working for it. And he sat back and he's like, dude, Jesus. And I said, yeah, because it matters. Because you can be the one that owns it. You can be the one. You don't have to be just the worker. And I've heard too many stories and too many things. And it's amazing to me, the collective energy that your team has of positivity and feeding off of each other and going to the next level. And so, a lot of the guys that listen to my podcast or people I coach are young agents. Over the years, you've cultivated a team, you're training, you're still growing, obviously. But, what is it that y'all harp on, like maybe like the core values of being a young investor or a young agent that you can share to add value to the listeners? Like, what have you learned over your years that can give them a leg up when they're getting started?
Having a good attitude is number one. I don't care how smart someone is. I don't care how much they're willing to, challenge themselves. If they have a bad attitude, there's no room in our team. Zero. Like, we don't complain. We don't argue with each other. Diego and I have been business partners for 6 years. Not one single time has there been a voice that's been raised or for us to get upset in any way. Have there been situations where we don't see eye to eye on something? Of course. We talk as adults and we figure it out in the moment. Mm-hmm. No animosity whatsoever. Another great thing about our team is this, that we celebrate each other's wins without tying it to, oh, well, what about me? Who cares about me? What we care about is the other people in our team. And I'll tell you right now, Diego is the MVP in 2020. He had the most sales. For the first time, he beat me in the most sales in the team. And I am super happy for him. And I'll tell you, my wife, she saw when I found out that he was the number one on the team, I was like, man, that's so awesome. I'm excited, da-da-da. And later on, she's like, wow, like, you're really happy about this. I'm like, well, why wouldn't I? He says, well, because most people would be like, oh, well, they want to be the number one. And I'm like, I don't care. It's our team. I've seen Diego from the start to get to where he is today. And it's just a mind-blowing to see how much growth he's had in such short time. And it's solid growth. It's not just growth because he ended up buying all these leads or, getting all these REOs. No, there's like real growth there. So that is awesome. Right now, we're working on Andres. He wants to go ahead and get to 50 deals this year. And I think he can do it. Probably one of the most charismatic people I know. Yeah. Super hardworking. And I'm like, I respect the hell out of him too. And that's the main thing for our team, respect and having a good attitude. Those would be the two things. And then, of course, the work ethic. You could be respectful. You could be respectful, but if you don't have the work ethic, right? You can be positive, but if you don't have the work ethic, then it really doesn't do much. But those are the top things that we look for whenever we're growing our team. And then just being of help for each other. I mean, being in the business, one of the biggest problems for realtors is that you never have any time off. Andres was able to enjoy this firsthand. His first year with the team, he's out in Mexico and he's like, my God, I got a client that wants to buy a house. I'm like, dude, I'll go show it. So there he is enjoying some margaritas and we're over here working, and his client got a home that he loved. So he was super happy about that. And in another situation, or in another scenario, it would be more like when I started. I'm on vacation, I'm on the phone, I'm on my laptop trying to get somebody to please show the property and pay him some money. And then maybe the person doesn't like it. And now I'm out a couple $100, but that's just the way it is. And to be able to create a team that helps each other, I mean, it is just incredible.
I couldn't agree more. And then you have my little dude that I've been helping out. You got the new one, Jaime. Yes, he's my dude. So it's interesting. You're buying and selling real estate and doing deals and putting families in homes. But I truly believe that the ripple effect of positivity and impact that this team will have will be greater than any dollar amount or transaction that leads. Yeah.
True. Yeah. And another thing is this, Austin, for us, we're like, you know what? When something goes bad, let's go ahead and make it right. And if it means losing all our commission to make the right decision, then we'll do it. Because the way I see it is we can always make more money, but you can't buy a reputation with all the money in the world. You cannot buy a good reputation. You can't. And at the end of the day, that's the number one priority for us. People before money. And doing the right thing for everybody that trusts us with this. And, kind of backtracking a little bit to what you said, you worked in the industry where there's a lot of Latino people. And, I'll tell you this, I think that the biggest misunderstanding for most that are not first generation or even second generation in this country is the fact that it's not just necessarily the Latinos, but anybody that was born in another country that comes here, the majority of those people become very successful. Why? Because they understand how much opportunity there is here.
Yeah.
And the other day, this friend of mine got pissed because I said, dude, this country was built by immigrants. And in his mind, he heard this country was built by Mexicans because I'm Mexican. And he thought that that's what I was saying. I'm like, dude, just pay attention to this. Who built New York City? The Irish that were barely here, first generation. You know, the people that came from different parts of Europe, the Asian people that built the railroads, you know, back in the late 1800s. And it's like, we get to a point sometimes here where we're so comfortable that we don't push. We don't push. And that's the only thing I'm afraid of. Now we live in a beautiful home, beautiful neighborhood. And I'm like, what about my daughters? How can I teach them the work ethic? So what I'm thinking, I'm like, dude, I'm going to take them in the summers. We're going to be working, even though we don't need to. We're going to be working, selling clothes. I remember my mom, she used to set up a little thing on the street and we would sell used clothes. I remember we used to go to the interior of Mexico in Christmas and we would sell toys, you know, for little ranches here and there. And a lot of times, Austin, it seemed like we were traveling back in time. Like, you remember the movie Back to the Future?
Yeah.
That's how it felt, man. Like, I remember going to a ranch where some aunts used to live. They didn't have running water. They didn't have electricity. In fact, they didn't even have a restroom, man. It was just tripped out. So whenever I would get home to my, humble abode at my parents', never a really nice house, real tiny place, I was so grateful just to be able to turn on this knob and for me to take a hot shower, because you couldn't do that back there. And I was like, wow, all those little things that we take for granted. And I was reminded, like you were in the last month, and you know, all those little things allow us to see how fortunate we are to be where we are. And right now we are in the Austin metro area. How much potential growth is there? A ton. And like you say, if you invest anywhere between San Antonio and Dallas, you're going to be in great shape. And in fact, I'm really happy you said that about San Antonio, because this little house that I'm buying for my daughter, Allison, that one's in San Antonio. So last time we got one for my daughter, Sophia, and we want to make sure that we start building for them.
Yeah. My house went up, the other one that I don't have anymore, but went up 200% in 2 years. So yeah, crazy town stuff. But it's interesting to piggyback on your point. Our need as people to seek comfort is the actual thing that's holding you back. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so it's 100% true. So if people want to find out more about what y'all have going on, your team, what you got going on, how would they do that? Well, they can go ahead and look me up at VictorNino.com. VictorNino.com or Realtor Nino on Instagram. And then you can go ahead and look through my pictures. You'll see Andres and Diego. You want to definitely follow those guys. They're young and they're hungry. So I'll tell you, if anybody is thinking about buying or thinking about selling, investing, or any questions related to real estate, we're an open book. We're here to help. We're here to guide. And, this has been a really awesome experience, and it's been good getting to know you. Yeah, man. I appreciate you so much, guys. If you like this episode, make sure you send it out to your friends, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.